This is lecture number DR012US06. This is the 12th of the Mega Genius lectures and the 6th lecture of the Uncommon Sense series. It was recorded on November 16th, 2000. The title of this lecture is 40 Rules for Parents and Children. It is 35 minutes long. Copyright 2000 by Mega Genius. All rights reserved. This lecture is protected by internationally valid copyright. It may not, in whole or in part, be duplicated, transmitted, or otherwise reproduced without the express permission of Mega Genius. Unauthorized translation, importation, or distribution is a violation of applicable laws. Mega Genius is a United States federally registered trademark and service mark. And now, here is Mega Genius.
If you are a parent or a child, or if you have ever had a parent or been a child, that should cover everyone, this lecture is for you. The first half of this lecture is for the parent. The endeavor of raising a child is continually difficult, emotionally taxing, and relentlessly frustrating if you don't know the rules. If you are exhausted from the problems, however, you will welcome the answers. Raising a child is like negotiating a freeway during rush hour, but the road is clearly marked with flashing indicators to ensure a smooth and gradient progression for parent and child alike. The trick is merely in recognizing and interpreting the signs along the roadway. If your child seems unwilling to talk to you, lacking in self-confidence, or frequently indecisive or depressed, a road sign read, "Right turn only," and you veered left. If he is unappreciative and unruly, you missed falling rocks ahead. And if he is covertly or openly hostile, you failed to notice the parent-child relationship accelerating in reverse past a bold notification announcing, "Warning, do not back up, severe damage." You still have time, but not much. Here are the 20 rules as revealed by the Genius Formula for successfully raising a child, any child. Make them your own. They are worth their weight in gold. Rule number 1, always speak courteously to your child and see that others do too. You don't relate well with those who speak to you in an uncivilized manner, and neither does your child. Show him or her that any point worth communicating can and should be conveyed with kindness. Children are not dumb animals. They are developing human beings who observe and learn from the actions of adults. Set the example the child should emulate. Number 2, demonstrate convincingly to your child that it's safe for him to speak to you openly and honestly. Don't make him feel wrong for expressing opinions that may be at variance with yours. Many of your opinions have changed, and you still don't agree with everyone else in this world, do you? You won't gain anything by allowing him to use you as a punching bag for his verbal abuse, and you should not permit that. But do encourage him to freely tell you how he feels. As long as he is doing that, don't interrupt. At the least, bite your tongue and practice being a good listener. Children will not talk to parents who appear to not understand. Number 3, avoid trying to reason with your child when either of you is angry. Raising a child successfully is an art, most effectively executed when based upon rational thought processes. Conversely, the sure road to failure is to act upon feelings of hostility, anger, fear, and the like. Teach your child that you will discuss any matter that he feels is significant, but only when he is in control of his emotions and talks calmly, non-abusively, and courteously. Then stick to it. The trick is to raise a civilized and self-controlled human being, not a barbarian. Number 4, allow your child to control his possessions. You would resent another's attempt to control the things you own, and so does he. How many of his possessions would you allow him to utterly destroy if he so chose? Those are the only things he really owns, you know, and he knows it too. Most items are for his temporary use only, as they really belong to others. Explain this to him. If he supposedly owns an object, however, make sure he really does. He should be allowed to move it, take it apart, change its color, refuse to share it, or give it away to his best friend. Even if he destroys it, you will have allowed him to learn responsibility for his own actions, the hard way. Number 5, allow your child to own some space. Give him a room, or at least a corner of one, that he can call his own. Allow him to put things there and rearrange them as he chooses. When he wants to think or feel safe, or just be alone, you will find that he will go there. Even inhabitants of a well-managed zoo have some space of their own for their well-being. Your child needs and deserves the same consideration. Number 6, allow your child to pursue some activity that is entirely of his own choosing. He may be interested in sports, music, dancing, nature, cooking, or whatever. Apart from the activities you choose for his improvement, though, let him select and explore at least one entirely on his own determinism. And remember to frequently allow him to make some decisions regarding his own life, even if they are minor. The earlier he begins, the easier it will be for him later. Number 7, allow your child to control some time. See to it that he has at least a few minutes each day to use or not as he alone decides. His productivity during that time does not matter. What's important is that he owns some time and learns it can either be used or wasted. Soon he will begin to realize his responsibility for what he does or does not do with it. It's a lesson often learned late, but worth learning early. Number 8, clarify your actions to your child. There is no need to defend your decisions or justify the things you do, but when they affect your child, he needs to understand the reasoning behind them. When a child asks why, the parent who replies, "Because I said so," is not clarifying anything except his intent to force compliance. Answers that do not contribute to understanding promote misunderstanding. Number 9, discipline your child effectively but gradiently. Use discipline to handle unacceptable behavior and prevent its recurrence, but not to inflict emotional or physical injury. Never carry it on for its own sake. Anything that was ever accomplished by punishment could have been achieved in a more civilized manner through proper communication. If the rules are fair and known to your child, he will accept the discipline necessary to ensure compliance. But if the rules are not ethical, or if the discipline is unpredictable or apparently not commensurate with the circumstances, you will meet with resistance. Also, rather than continually stopping your child, redirect his efforts. If the need for discipline is based upon rational thought rather than emotional reaction, then act promptly, decisively, and effectively. Even so, always take the least drastic action necessary. The idea is to teach ethical behavior, not to direct your personal frustrations at the one who looks to you for mature guidance. Number 10, make sure your child receives a meaningful and applicable education. Help him form an ethical code. His may not be identical to yours, but it must be one he can live with and live by. If you want him to be honest with you, demonstrate the value of honesty in your relationships with others. Educate him in the essentials of the society in which he lives, including the basic laws of the land. Wisely offer him the opportunity to learn from these lectures. Ensure that he can read, write, and perform basic arithmetic skills. Society in the 21st century will view the functionally illiterate as disadvantaged indeed, but the child who can read can always learn. Number 11, communicate your love to your child by words and actions. Don't just presume that he knows you love him. Tell him, and tell him frequently. Explain the ways in which you demonstrate your love. It's important that he knows and understands. Then look him straight in the eyes and tell him again that you love him. Number 12, allow your child to be his own person. You don't like to have someone attempt to force you to be different from the way you really are, and neither does he. Just as you have your goals, he has his, and some are different from yours. He is a different person. He cannot lead your life, and you should not try to lead his. Don't deny him the right to make his own mistakes and learn from them. Think how much you have learned from your own. Instead, allow him to be the person he is without having to be different to be acceptable to you. He is a unique and special person. Don't try to make him into someone he isn't. Number 13, ensure your child's good health and safety. Until he is of legal age, his well-being is your job. Know where he is, who he is with, and what he is doing. See to it that environmental factors that could result in emotional or physical damage to him are kept to a reasonably minimal level. Control his access to guns and supervise his use of automobiles. Safeguard him from sexual molestation. Make sure he is neither nutritionally deficient nor ingesting unnecessary alcohol, street drugs, radiation, or non-essential medical drugs or chemical toxins. Protect him from psychiatric surgery and electroconvulsive shock. As a legal adult, he will be responsible for his condition. Until then, you are. Number 14. Reserve your right to redirect your child's relationship with another when absolutely necessary. Allow him to choose his friends and be cautious about terminating his relationships. He will learn from them all. Otherwise, you will turn a minor difference of opinion into the subject of a full-scale battleground. If he has formed an association with someone who is clearly the source of continual difficulties and recurring upsets to your child or family unit, however, or someone who needlessly endangers his safety, take a firm position along with effective action that will separate your child from the trouble source. Use this right sparingly and only when you are certain your observations are correct, but never neglect your duty to maintain a comfortable family environment for the sake of your own sanity and that of your child. Number 15. Frequently thank your child for what he has done right. To a developing child, the world can easily seem like a burden of repressive rules and wrong actions. When his actions are correct, make sure he knows it, and don't wait forever to tell him. Everyone enjoys being commended for a task well done. Besides, nothing works like a pat on the back to inspire one to try even harder. Number 16. Allow your child the opportunity to work. Just as welfare systems promote dysfunctional societies, children who are catered to on silver platters don't grow up to function well either. Gradiently allow him to earn some of what he receives, demonstrating the relationship between rewards for production and disadvantages for non-production. Life will not hand everything to your child for free, and in preparing him for adulthood, neither should you. Number 17. Teach your child to be fair and decent in all his relationships. All segments of society include persons who are rich, poor, honest, deceptive, friends, and foes. Your child should learn that groups consist of individuals and to treat each member ethically. If he learns from your words or actions to be prejudiced against any groups based upon race, sex, age, culture, nationality, financial position, educational opportunities, religious beliefs, physical appearance, mental abilities, sexual orientation, or any other general characteristics, he will be handicapped in his relations with them. He trusts you to bestow your wisdom. He does not deserve to inherit any ignorance. Number 18. Teach your child the value of duty. Money and material possessions are not everything, and on the last day of his life they will mean almost nothing at all. Help him find something worthwhile that he enjoys doing and can do well, and encourage him to learn to do it better and to take pride in a job well done. Teach him to use that ability to contribute to his friends, family, city, nation, and the world. Help him discover what burns passionately within him like an eternal flame, and then wisely encourage him to follow a vocation along that line. And speaking of his ability to contribute, here is a megatruth. We all have a duty to leave this planet in a better condition than we found it. Are you setting an example in that respect? Are you producing results? Number 19. Ensure that your home is safe for your child. A house that harbors violence, verbal abuse, alcohol or other drug abuse, sexual molestation, continual noise, unsanitary or unsafe conditions, or frequent arguing, fear, tension, or depression is not a home for your child, but a house of detention. Again, animals in a zoo would not be permitted to suffer under such conditions, and neither should your child. Ensuring that your house is also your child's home is your responsibility. Number 20. Share your religious beliefs with your child intelligently. There are more than 6 billion other individuals on this planet, and most of them hold religious beliefs that are different from yours. Share your viewpoints about the origin of life and this universe with your child, but also teach him that many other good people believe differently. Your child has his own way of viewing the truth, based not only upon how he has been educated, but his intelligence and experiences. If he accepts your beliefs, fine. If not, allow him to see truth to the best of his own ability, which just might be better than yours. If you try to force him to accept your religious beliefs, he will withdraw. If you teach him that those who believe differently are necessarily bad, he will discover you were wrong. Either way, he will lose respect for your judgment. The difference is between being a parent who is well-intentioned and one who is wise. Now, despite what most people think, the idea of raising a child is not to waste the better part of 2 decades spying on and arguing with a belligerent midget whose appearance and mannerisms are sufficient to hold flying saucers at bay. Rather, the purpose is to nurture, protect, and educate an evolving human being until you reach the objective of his self-sufficiency. That's the goal. When he leaves the nest to enjoy his own successes and learn from future mistakes, your job of raising that child is done. Beyond that, hopefully, you will each have the sense to remain the other's friend, regardless of. Now, if when he reaches adulthood he thanks you for all that you have done, delight in it. If he blames you for everything that's wrong with him, pat him on the rear, tell him to wear his galoshes, and ignore his comments. He will grow up some more when he raises children of his own. Besides, no one has raised the perfect child yet. How workable are these rules? Well, depending upon the circumstances, you might be able to consistently violate every one and still find yourself the parent of an admirable young adult, but it would surely be his own doing, not yours. On the other hand, if you understand and consistently apply all 20, you will have every reasonable expectation of becoming one of the most successful parents this world has known. And furthermore, I'll wager 2 tiddlywinks that, in the sunset of your years, the actions of a grateful child will reflect the same sense of responsibility and compassion toward his silver-haired parents that they demonstrated to him by word and deed. According to the Genius Formula, if you play the game by these rules, you can make the raising of your child an enjoyable experience for everyone concerned. I think it's worth the time to do it right. It will be a memory sooner than you think. Now, this half of the lecture is for the child. It has been said that the reason grandparents and grandchildren get along so well together is that they have a common enemy. Well, in truth, there is an actual adversary that lurks throughout the lives of teenagers, but it is not who they think. Here is a mega-truth. Actually, the only source of trouble that exists throughout this universe is one's own inability to understand. If you are a teenager confounded by parents, or if you know one who is, here is how the battle can be won. Now, what would you think of a teenager who worked to buy a car, yet tossed his earnings in the trash? Or one who aspired to become a motion picture star, but refused to study acting? Or a fellow who dreamed of becoming a world-class athlete, yet satiated his appetite with junk foods and skipped his workouts? It would not make sense, would it? In each case, the source of the counter-intention, the unrecognized enemy at large, would be the person himself. Now, what would you think of a teenager who longed to be trusted as an adult, yet either caused effects that his parents viewed as childish, or refused to do those things his parents recognized as adult-like? That would not make sense either. It would be a frustrating and losing game. You see, it would not matter who was right and who was wrong. The teenager just would not get where he was going. He would not be real to his parents as a grown-up. And 20 years later, if he had not learned how to mold the thoughts of others, he would still have problems attaining his goals. For example, imagine that he decided to become a professional comic. Well, from his viewpoint, he might actually have evolved into the funniest person on earth, but if he did not know how to do the things that make people laugh, if he could not convince others, he would be a comedian only to himself. Nobody would be in agreement with his comedic talents. He would be out of agreement with everybody else and would be laughing alone. He would not get where he was going. There's a trick to getting along with parents, and it's simply this. Learn to do those things parents recognize as adult behavior, and do not do those things they perceive to be the acts of young children. It's really that simple. Of course, now we see one of the reasons it's difficult to be a teenager. For the first decade of one's life, parents strongly encourage a child to be childlike and participate in childlike activities, but for the second decade, he or she is pressured to act like an adult, and the so-called experts blame it all on hormones. It's an abrupt and confusing turnaround for anyone, but that's the way it is. Play the game by the rules and you will win. Disregard the rules and you will be upset, angry, and moping in the locker room after every game. So here are the 20 rules for dealing with parents, which will not only capture their attention and set them to rubbing their eyes in disbelief, but will even inspire them to renegotiate those old differences of opinion in a newfound light. If you are a teenager who wishes your parents would relate with you more as an adult, the Genius Formula provides the answers. Now it's up to you. Rule number 1. Always speak courteously to your parents. How your parents may speak to you is irrelevant. Act like an adult by setting the example. No person has ever been so wrong that he deserved to be spoken to unkindly. Cruel words are the earmark of an uncivilized individual who has lost control. They will never convince another that you are right, only that you have lost the ability to act rationally and, therefore, have proved yourself wrong. Discourtesy is an earmark of immaturity and is unbecoming to any human being. Number 2, be willing to at least listen to what your parents have to say. You don't always have to agree, but at least listen to their views and reasons without interrupting, just as you would want them to listen to yours. If you make faces, gestures, or use body language that indicate you neither care nor want to listen, you are losing the game. Your parents will interpret them as signs that you do not understand, and people who don't understand are quickly viewed as lacking intelligence. Most children are so insistent upon getting their points across that they continually interrupt, argue, and speak offensively until they actually talk their parents right into a state of disagreement. But it's a bright and maturing teenager who has the superior sense to sit back and listen to his parents talk themselves out of it. Number 3, never try to reason with a parent when either of you is angry. An angry person is already sure somebody else is wrong, and as long as he is angry, he is not likely to be convinced of anything else. The intent of an angry person is to prove somebody wrong. He is never willing to really listen. Therefore, he is not capable of contributing to any appreciable increase in understanding at that time. Be smart. Talk things out later. Number 4, respect your parents' possessions, space, and time. What you own is yours to do with as you choose, but treat the things your parents own with at least the same care you would want someone to use with your possessions. Respect the spaces that are intended for the use of others and for the family as a whole. Keep in mind that no parent enjoys frequently dropping everything just to handle things that you insist have to be done right now. Your parents have their own plans and problems. Take care not to be so insensitive as to think that yours are the only ones that matter. Number 5, learn to discipline yourself effectively. In the process of becoming a mature adult, every person must learn to provide not only for his own happiness, but for the happiness of others. That's what discipline is all about. Make sure you understand your parents' rules and the reasoning behind each. Talk through any that don't seem to make sense and reach some agreement you can live with. Then start disciplining yourself. The more you are able to do so, the more quickly you will be perceived as a young adult. Number 6, educate yourself effectively. No one else can do it for you. They can only help. Some of the subjects you are required to study may seem less interesting than others, but there is something to be learned from each. Ferret it out. Never study just to pass a course. Rather, study to be able to use what you have learned. You will find that any time you cannot use what you have supposedly learned, you really haven't learned anything of value, because you cannot use it. Familiarize yourself with the basic laws of the land, and abide by them whenever possible. They apply to you and exist for your benefit and the happiness of those whom you love. It's imperative that you learn to read, write, and perform basic arithmetic tasks. You must be able to read and understand articles and books about subjects that interest you, communicate your written thoughts in a clear and understandable fashion to others, and both profitably handle your money and oversee the actions of those who may handle it for you. Otherwise, you will surely find yourself illiterate, ineffective, and poor, or extremely dependent upon someone who is not. And that is a childish thing to do to yourself. Number 7, ensure your own good health and safety. Whether you live long enough to become an adult and the kind of adult you become is essentially up to you. Be your own best friend and watch out for yourself. Take care of your body. Protect yourself from communicable diseases. Never ingest dangerous substances or allow yourself to be placed in uncontrolled situations or take foolish and unnecessary risks to be accepted by those who pretend to be your friends. Those who would urge you to take such risks will be the first to blame you when things go wrong because of it. The hard truth is that some of your peers will remain children for as long as they live. Becoming an adult doesn't just happen, and sometimes, due to a single moment of carelessness, it never happens at all. Number 8, Maintain your affinity with your parents. Someone said there is nothing wrong with teenagers that reasoning with them won't aggravate. Well, most teenagers feel the same way about parents. Sometimes teenagers make mistakes. Sometimes parents make mistakes. You and your parents won't agree completely about everything, but that is an immature reason to withhold your love from them, regardless of what they have said or done. A child who can disagree and still kiss his parents is not likely to be treated as a child for long. Number 9. Keep your word. A person is as trustworthy as his word is good. Anytime you give your word and break it, nobody wins. If you keep breaking your word, you will soon discover that even you cannot trust yourself. Then you will mistakenly decide no one else can be trusted either. After all, if you admitted that others could be trusted, that would make you, who cannot be trusted, wrong, and no one wants to be wrong. If you keep your word, not only will you feel good about yourself, but you will find that you have unquestionably proved yourself right. You said you would, and you did. Number 10. Learn to control your emotions. Successful navigation through life requires the ability to reason intelligently, which one does with an agreeable attitude and controlled emotions. The inability to control one's emotions is not peculiar to children, but since young children tend to express their less attractive emotions randomly, adults consider it childish behavior. Therefore, remember that the more you allow your emotions to control your thoughts and actions, the less intelligently you will think, and the more you will be seen as still a child by adults. Number 11. Accept your parents as themselves. Anytime you try to force someone to change, you are likely to meet with resistance. Just as you don't like to be forced to be different from the way you are, don't try to force your parents to be people they are not. Accept their quirks and foibles as you would want them to accept yours. No parents are faultless, but neither is anyone's child. Allow your parents to be themselves without having to be different to be acceptable to you. No matter who you are or where you live, the only perfect parents are someone else's. Number 12. Be an asset to your family. Find out where your family is headed and help it get there. Be part of the solution, not the problem. Anyone can create emergencies, unnecessarily drag his feet, break the rules, be disruptive, refuse to talk, blame others, pout, or insist that his demands take precedence over the needs of others, as small children often do. It takes grown-up understanding, however, to accept responsibility for making things go right. Families don't just float along on cumulus clouds and trade winds at 10 to 15 knots. Every member has to hoist his corner of the load. So don't expect to be treated on an equal footing if you are still allowing others to do most of your backpacking. Number 13. Convince your parents by your actions. What you say will never count for as much as what you do. Talk is cheap, but your actions will stand for your parents and others to see clearly. Long after they have forgotten what you said, they will remember what you did. Make sure your actions demonstrate the things you have been trying to say. Words may be eloquent, but actions pack the greater conviction. Number 14. Formulate an ethical code and abide by it. Some actions are beneficial to your friends, family, and country. Others are destructive. Decide which are which and remain true to your understanding of what is right and wrong. Treat all persons as individuals, regardless of their race, sex, age, culture, nationality, financial position, educational opportunities, religious beliefs, physical appearance, mental abilities, sexual orientation, and any other general characteristics. Promote honesty, loyalty, kindness, trustworthiness, and helpfulness. Your happiness depends upon it more than you realize. Number 15. Help keep your home safe. Protect your home from violence, alcohol abuse, street drugs, continual noise, and frequent arguing, tension, fear, and unsanitary or unsafe conditions. You would not enjoy living in such a prison, and neither would your parents. If you are unable to remedy such a situation after discussing it thoroughly with them, talk to a teacher, counselor, or other adult whom you trust. Things will not go right in your life if they are continually wrong at home. Number 16. Choose your friends carefully. Everyone makes an occasional mistake, but to the degree that one acts in a manner that is dishonest, reckless, prejudiced, untrustworthy, or intentionally cruel toward either you or others, he has not yet matured and is not really your friend. Friends support your survival and that of your family. Enemies oppose it. You will do best if you are a friend to everyone, but form your closest associations with those who maintain the decent attributes in themselves that you should be strengthening in yourself. First, you will become a better person for it, and second, you will discover in time they were your best friends all along. Number 17. Accept responsibility for the society in which you live. The basic laws of the land exist for the same reason there are rules in soccer, baseball, and football. Without them, there would be disagreement, confusion, and a total collapse of the game. Fun would be replaced by unhappiness. When the majority of the members of a society agree to live by fundamental rules, they have predictability and a chance for happiness. Those who secretly break the rules while pretending to be members are selfishly attempting to destroy everyone's chance for happiness. They are no one's friends, even to each other and themselves. When a person is selling street drugs, vandalizing, stealing, or committing other crimes, he is not being your friend. Tomorrow he will sell stronger drugs to younger children, destroy your best friend's property, and steal from you when your back is turned. If you care about your happiness and that of others, don't just think about it. Accept responsibility for what's happening and act quickly. If you can, persuade the person to admit what he has done to an adult who is able and willing to correct the matter. If you cannot, tell the adult yourself. It may require some courage and caring, but being a friend means helping others to win by playing by the rules, not sitting on the sidelines watching the rules being broken and deciding it all has nothing to do with you. It's your football game. You are a player too, and it is your business what happens throughout the playing field. It is also your community, which is your responsibility too. Recognizing it is a big part of growing up. Number 18. Accept responsibility for your own condition. A child remains his parent's child as long as he lives, but he never stops behaving like a child until the day he no longer blames them or anyone else for any part of his condition. All parents have their own ideas of how to raise a child, and sometimes they make mistakes, occasionally even major ones. Nevertheless, ultimately, the way a child turns out depends primarily upon the way he chooses to respond and relate to others and his environment. That is why one child whose parents are poor, violent, alcoholic, uncaring, and cruel may grow up to be one of the most admired members of the community, while another whose parents are wealthy, dedicated, kind, caring, and supportive may continue to blame them for every misfortune until the day he dies. Blaming others for your own condition, no matter what they did, will never justify your own shortcomings. Instead, it will merely extend your childhood into middle age and perhaps well beyond. Number 19. Plan your future. Decide what you passionately want to do, and then learn to do it as well or even better than anyone else. In the process, you may even have to leave your home, family, and community, at least for a while. But that's all right. They won't always be around for you. You will. Others can advise you, but you alone should make the final decision of what to do with your life. Unless you live your own life, someone else is certain to live it for you. The more you live your own life, the more alive you will become, and the more others will seek you out to ask for advice instead of give it. Strive to do whatever you want, what you think you can learn to do best, and what makes you effervesce with enthusiasm, even if others tell you it's impossible. As Henry Ford said, quote, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right," unquote. But whatever you decide to do it in a way that you can contribute to your friends, family, city, nation, and the world. Number 20. Let your parents know you appreciate their efforts. In terms of time, money, attention, work, and hopes, you are probably the most important of your parents' investments. At worst, a child can be life's greatest disappointment. At best, he is a high-risk commodity. No one forces parents to raise any child. They do it by choice, and most would be quite satisfied just to live to see their child become an honest, caring, and productive adult. For all of their efforts directed toward that goal, you should at least express your gratitude today. Too often, tomorrow is too late. Now, if any of these 20 rules seems particularly difficult, don't despair. Childhood is a process of growing up gradually, and no one expects you to apply them with unerring consistency overnight. Did you notice that no one can make you abide by any of them? They are all unenforceable. They are not even of any appreciable value to adults. They are only yours, to use or not as you choose. But I think you will find that if you refer to them frequently and practice them sincerely, they are as easy as you consider them to be, and, in accordance with the genius formula, as workable as the world turns. Then one day, shortly after you have made them your own, your parents will suddenly begin to treat you with much more trust, respect, and understanding, not because you say you have grown up, but because your actions have proved it so.